Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sam.
And we're NV Board Gaming, and today we're going to be taking a look at Challenger's Beach Cup. This is brought to us, well, not brought to us, it's by Pretzel Games and One More Time Games. I would pronounce the designers, but honestly, I would butcher it. So let me show you how this is played. This is a fun little deck building war game, but let me show you how it's played, and then we'll come back and give you our review.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I've gone ahead and I've set up a game of Challenger's Beach Cup here. Now, depending on the number of players, your setup will be a little bit different. The main thing being this is a 2-player setup where you're only going to use one mat. However, with more players, you're going to have more mats because each round it's going to be 2 players facing off at each mat. And the way you're going to know what mat you're going to is that at the beginning of the game, every player is going to get one of these tournament plans. You're going to collect them based on the number of players, and that's going to have the different mats that you're going to play on. So your setup will change based on the number of players that you have. So this is a 2-player setup, and I'm just going to go through how a game is going to work, just a brief overview of that. So what you're going to do as a player, you're going to go to the mat that is listed on your card, and that is when you're going to take the 2 phases. So in this game, what you're doing is a little bit of deck building as well as some war. So if you're familiar with that card game War, where each opponent is going to flip over a card, whoever has the highest value is going to win, it's similar to that as well. This puts a little bit of a capture the flag theme on it, obviously very loosely since you're just flipping over cards. And so what this is going to do is over 7 rounds, each round you're going to have 2 phases. You're going to have a drafting phase, and then you're going to have the actual match phase. So at the beginning, each player has the exact same deck of 6 cards, right? You're going to have 3 newcomers, a champion, a talent, and a dog. All right. But at the beginning of every round, you are going to be drafting cards based off of your tournament card. Now, all players' tournament cards, their playing cards are the exact same for each round. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at what round you're in. So we're on round 1. We're going to draw, you will always draw 5 cards, but then you're going to keep cards based on what your what your tournament plan tells you. So for the first round, you're going to draw 5 no matter what. So I'm drawing 5 A cards, but this shows that I get to keep 3. So I'm going to go to these different decks. You have an A deck, a B deck, and a C deck. You're going to draw 5 cards, and then you're going to look at them and decide which ones you would like to keep. Now, there are going to be different colors and different suits and different abilities based on the different decks, okay? And each game can have a little bit of replayability as you are only supposed to use so many decks. So in this case, I didn't put the purple one in, right? So I think they have like different, I guess you'd call them like races or different types, but you're going to pick a certain number of them, shuffle them all together. You'll always use the rainbow cards, and these are going to change from round to round so you can keep the game kind of fresh. Now, each of these are going to have their own different kinds of approaches and abilities and different points values and things that are going to happen with the effects depending on what part of the phase that you're in, okay? So you're going to look through your cards, decide if you want to keep them. If you look at your cards and you say, hey, I don't like any of these, you can discard them, or let's say I only like one of them. I can discard the rest and I can draw back up. So if I kept one and discarded 4, I'll draw 4 back up again, and then I'll take the other 2 that I need to keep, okay? Once you've got your cards, all the ones that you didn't pick will go into the discard pile. You'll take the ones that you did draft, and you're going to shuffle them into your deck, just as your opponent will. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start the match phase. Now, before I jump into that, you can always take cards out of your deck, okay? Keep that in mind because you might have a lighter deck, so you might not have as many cards as your opponent, and you'll want to kind of weigh that, but you also might not want a ton of different types, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. So you can always kind of cull your deck. If they go to a certain one of these groups, you'll put them in discard. If it's a starter card, you can just set it off to the side, okay? But the way this game is going to work is that one player is going to start as the flag holder, and they are going to, at the very beginning, let's say it's this player, they're going to take their deck, they're going to flip the top card, and they're going to take the flag. Then it is going to be the attacking player's turn. And what they're going to do is they are going to flip over the top card of their deck, and they are trying to equal or beat their opponent's number. So the newcomer is a 1. It's a 1. It meets it. It's going to take the flag, and this card is going to get discarded. And when this gets discarded, instead of it going into it, you're going to have two different things. There's going to be a bench, and then there's going to be a exile deck or exile pile. These cards are going to go on your bench. I'll put it on this side just so it's easier for you to see. And any card that shares the same name will go in the same pile. And you're going to keep going back and forth like this. Newcomer, right? And they're going to cover up their side. It's going to keep going back and forth. This is very uneventful. This will go there. It's probably because I didn't shuffle them. But as you're going to see, there's going to be different effects. So I might have this dog that says, look at the top card of my deck and decide if I want to put it on the top or the bottom. So I'm going to look at the top card. Oh, okay, I might want to keep this one. I'm going to keep it on top, or I can put it on bottom. Okay, now let's say it was like this. Please don't make this be the dog. Talent is a 2. It's not higher or equal to, so it'll keep flipping, right? Now it's a 5, so it beats it. So it's going to take the flag. It'll be able to look at its card. Now it obviously only has 1 left. This dog will go in the bench. We'll keep going. Now I just have to beat the 3. I have the fairy, that's a 1, which is going to let me choose one of my sets from my bench, and I'll be able to put it in my exile pile. And the reason why you're going to do that is because you're going to keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, triggering different abilities. And until either someone runs out of cards and they can't beat you, or they have no more room on their bench to place a card. Okay? If you cannot beat your opponent, they're going to win. Or if you run out of cards, you cannot win, they're going to take this top trophy, and this is how many fans they're going to get. Okay? Then you're going to start the second round. You'll go to the next mat that you're supposed to. In the next round, you're going to be able to choose, do I want to take from deck A or deck B? But in this case, if I take from deck A, I'm going to get 2 fans, which are points. And you're going to keep going until after the final round, depending on how many players you're playing with. Now, if you're playing with 2 players, if at any point in time somebody is ahead by 11 or more fans, then they will automatically win. However, if you're playing with 5, 6, 7, 8 players, right, you're going to go all the way through those 7 rounds, find out who has the top 2 scores. Those 2 players will compete against each other without drafting new cards, and whoever wins that round is going to win the game. So that is how it's going to work. And it's just, that's literally all it is. You're going to be drafting cards, building these decks, and going head to head until somebody wins. All right? One thing I will say, if you do play with an odd number, the game does come with these, they call them, I think it's a robot deck or something like that. These will go up against the person that is like the odd man out, that's not teamed up against an actual player. Also, there is a little expansion to where each player can get a special ability that you'll get these little sleeves. You'll put your tournament plan in, and these can give you ongoing abilities or one-time abilities for each round. There is also a way for you, if you have Challengers Beach Cup as well as the base game of Challengers, you can do a Giga tournament, and it includes cards for the Giga tournament as well as some cards for those decks. So you'll get a bunch of extra dogs with the symbols for that original set. Okay, and that's pretty much it. You're just gonna be going back and forth until you finish the 7 rounds, or somebody's ahead by 11 points, depending on the player count, and then that's it. So yeah, pretty simple game. Let's go ahead and take it back up top and give you our final thoughts.
All right, and we are back with our review. So this is a game that we were at the board game store, and we were on had a date night. We went out to dinner. It was kind of just like a, fun thing. Hey, let's just go play some games, or we'll just go to the board game store and check it out. And they had this game. And so you were originally looking for just Challengers?
I was looking for Challengers, and so it was kind of like on my list of something to check out, but it was a game that I wanted to try because it didn't seem like it was necessarily my cup of tea necessarily, just because I was like, oh, war? Like, who wants to drop $40 on war, essentially? But we went to the board game store, which is by the board, and they had this copy. They didn't have the original, which is fine. They're the same kind of game. So if you have played regular Challengers, this isn't going to be any groundbreaking stuff. There'll be some changes and whatnot. But they had a copy of this in their library that was opened, but not fully opened. So we kind of opened it up. They're like, we have no idea anything about this game, so have at it. And I was like, no worries, we'll figure it all out. So we opened it up and played a round of it, and then enjoyed it to the point where, like, hey, they had it cheaper there than anywhere else we saw online. And so we're like, okay, we'll pick up a copy of it. And it's funny because this game gives me that trading card game feel, which we just did a review about Lorcana. So I feel like we're kind of in that same realm here, except for without that whole having to buy booster packs thing, right? And so looking at this, I'll talk about production first. The production of this game, for a game that should be just cards, right? The production of this game is really top-notch stuff. For a relatively decent price. I think it was like $40, maybe a little under if I remember right. But you have the plastic card holders for the different decks. You have the 4 play mats that are in the game. There's 4 play mats. The little tokens for the flags are really nice. You have little cardboard stars, but really those play mats and the flag tokens and the holders for the cards were just a really good production, and it has a decent insert to be able to put everything into, and everything has a place, which is really nice. They even have these little sleeves for if you play with the little, what is it? I don't know if it's a variant or a module where you get like the special abilities and whatnot. But I thought the production was really, really good. I don't know. What did you think about it? What did you think? I know you like art and stuff like that in games. So what did you think of the art in the game?
I thought the art was cool. I think it was neat, like the different characters and stuff, and it was cool because they made it almost like, like the box, like cartoony.
It's very whimsical. It's not meant to. It's not a game that's meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah,
right?
It's very like silly, which I like. I think it. Yeah.
Right.
It's a silly game.
Yeah, if you have, mammoths going up against, some weird snake or, what is that? Like,
that's like the wolf from Red Riding Hood.
Red Riding Hood kind of stuff, right? And so it just has a really nice look. The production is really good. I like some of the art that's in it. Some of it's very, it's very cartoony art. So
it is, yeah.
It fits with the game theme, right? Which we'll talk a little bit about more later. Setup and teardown is pretty quick and easy, right? So you're everybody gets their tournament plans. Everybody goes to their mats and you have your starting cards and that's it. And then you just kind of start because you have the decks that are already set out and you're going to be building your deck as you go along. The only thing is, like, if you decide that you want to, they have different sets of cards that are pertained to like a different, I don't know if I want to call it race, but like a different colored cards, and you only use so many colors. You'll always use the rainbows, but then you have like purple, green, blue, there's a brown, right? And you'll only use so many. So there'll always be like one set that sets out. And so you can kind of mix and match those and decide which one you want to exclude and include the other ones. So the only thing that might mess with setup is that you'll have to take those cards out and put new cards in if you want to switch it up, right? But that's really pretty minor. Setup is pretty quick. You just throw the cards out there, throw out the mats, and you're ready to go. Teaching is a little interesting because it's not like it's set up to be like a tournament game. Now you can play this at 2-player. We've played this quite a few times at 2-player, but I think the game really shines when you have that 6 to 8 player round games, right? And it's a little bit different because you're like, okay, it's like war where you're flipping a card and whoever has the highest number wins, except for there's a twist, right? You're building up your deck. There's a little twist with when you're playing cards, and they tried to throw in this little, also it's capture the flag, right? And you're at the beach, kind of whatnot. So it's a weird concept, and I think it takes a couple rounds for people to grasp, what? Okay, so you're holding the flag, I'm challenging you, and I keep flipping. And then you go to the bench, which is a little weird. It was a little weird just to grasp because I just think it was made me think differently than I'm usually thinking about these kinds of games, especially when I go into it with this idea of this is war, right? This is war, like I used to play as a little kid, right? And so, but as far as setup and tear down, the teach is really quick. I think also knowing like, hey, you can cull your deck. It's not just building up a deck. You can get rid of cards throughout the game as well. All really pretty simple, I think, for a teach. But yeah, I think you just have to get that mindset around like this is war, but extra.
Yeah.
To it.
I never played War. So when you said it was like War, I was like, I don't think I've ever played War.
Oh, okay. War is just like you take a normal deck of cards, you kind of deal half to each person, and you both flip a card at the same time. Who has the highest number wins.
Okay.
And then you just keep going. So same kind of concept here, except for only one person's flipping cards at a time.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, it definitely, I feel like I agree with you on like it might take a little bit for you to be like, oh, okay, like I keep the flag now, and then now you're gonna like flip cards but I mean, for the most part, like it's pretty quick, and yeah, it's kind of like a fast pace.
Oh, rounds are pretty fast. Yeah. I think that like you trying to figure out what cards you want can be a little tricky too, because you're like, oh, that's the part that I think might even take the longest is when people are trying to figure out what cards they want to keep and give me some new cards. But overall, even that's not very long. It's a pretty quick game. So thinking about those mechanics and the gameplay and how that all works thematically, the theme is just kind of laid on there. I mean, you have the little flag token and whatnot.
It is, yeah.
But you're really just competing for whoever gets the most fans. And you're going to get fans by cards abilities and then by winning each round. If you win a round, you get the trophy and it has fans on the bottom of it, right?
Yeah.
Mechanic-wise, very straightforward. What you're trying to do is build that deck that the cards can play off of each other, whether it be ones that really help you get rid of cards from your bench into your exile pile or discard pile, whatever you want to call it. And so you don't have to worry about running out of space. You have ones that give you plus attack for each card that you might have on your bench or in your discard pile, or the next card if you didn't do something, if you didn't win the flag, right? A lot of them is just these special abilities with these cards. So I think there's a lot of really interesting combos that you can put together there with those mechanics, which is really nice. There is a little bit of luck, obviously, because you're just drawing cards that you want to add into your deck. But luckily, there is a little bit of mitigation where you can be like, okay, I don't like any of these cards. I can put them back and draw 5 more, right? There is that interesting concept when you go to build your deck. It's like, ooh, do I want to take from deck A or deck B? If I take from deck A, I get to have more cards.
Yeah.
But if I take from deck B, I could get some stronger cards, right? And so,
yeah, you do have to make that decision,
right?
About like, do I want the fans that go with the A cards,
right? A lot of times,
or do I want to upgrade to the B cards, or once you do get to C, like what do you want to do, right? So,
and those fans are important in a 2-player game because if at any point somebody is 11 points or more than their opponent, then the game's over, right? So you might not even play a full 7 rounds if somebody is just constantly winning or generating a lot of fans. So that's something to keep in mind. But I did like that idea of, do I want points and more cards, or do I want to forego that extra card and those extra fans in order to get potentially stronger cards? So it has that nice kind of meaty decision there that you have to decide between those two options. But yeah, I feel like I've been talking a lot, so go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I basically the theme, like you said, is just pasted on. I do like, the silly like art and stuff like that, but for me, it didn't feel like thematic. The gameplay didn't feel that way, although it is a different type of like mechanics, which I like. Once we played it a couple times, I was like, oh, this is a neat game. It's different for sure, but I mean, I think it had like some cool mechanics to it. So yeah.
And I think it's pretty streamlined. Obviously, turns are pretty quick at what you're doing, flipping those cards. So it's a really quick thing. One thing I'll mention too, I believe I mentioned it in the teach as well, is that if you do have the base game, you can mix these and have like a Giga tournament that plays up to like 16 players, if I remember right. So you could have a big tournament, and also you can mix and match the different cards, so you can have more sets that might have some better synergies, which is a really cool concept as well. And you can really play around with those decks and how you're going to mix and match those cards. So with that being said, we'll jump into kind of our return on investment for this game and what we thought, as well as our final scores. So this one exceeded what I thought. I didn't have high expectations. I was curious. But I wasn't like, oh my gosh, hyped for this game. I'd seen that it got some good reviews and some relatively decent scores, and so I was like, hey, this is a game that I want to try first before I play it. And we just kind of came upon it at the board game store, which was nice. And so I thought this one,
being able to try it like before we bought it.
Yeah, which is always a good thing. I always highly recommend trying a game before you buy it if you can. And so, yeah, this one definitely, I think, it exceeded what I thought. Not that I think it was like, oh my gosh, mind-blowing, you know. But I do like this at a higher player count. So if you're going to play challengers, 2 players is fine. But, like, it could just be like, oh, that person's just got a better deck than mine, you know. And so I like that idea of going up against somebody else where you don't know what's going to be coming out of their deck, right? And it's really cool because it's going to be different from if I play Nick versus I play Samantha. Like, yes, their cards aren't going to change, but I just like seeing how different people build those things up. And so I do like this at a higher player count. I think there is quite a bit of replayability, especially if you get the first box. Okay, so my score for this game is going to be right at I think I'm going to come in at the exact same score that I gave Lorcana, and that's 7.7.
Interesting. Okay. I was expecting you to score that higher. This higher.
This one?
I mean.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think it's good. I think it could be better. I think it could go up. Maybe, yeah. But I'm happy with it. I think we'll see. You know, we'll see. I don't know how it'll play out, if it'll grow or not. If I had the other cards, maybe mixing and matching. I don't know, but yeah. Right now, I'm at a 7.7.
7.7. Okay. I am gonna give it just a 7. But honestly, like, I love the fact that it is easy to set up, easy to tear down. It's a fast game that we can play. I did like it with higher player counts. I did think that was really fun of us, you know, it being like 6 of us, right?
Right, yeah.
And so we each got to like take turns, like different rounds going up against different people. So I thought that was really neat. And, you know, because you could be riding a high and beating like a couple people back to back, and then you come and you play someone, and then they knock you out, aka Vic. But yeah, so yeah, I just think that's interesting. Like, you get to play different people, and it's just like it's a fast-paced like game. Yeah, you know.
Well, I would say it's a filler game. This is a great filler game, I think.
Yeah,
that's why I don't think I'm giving it a super high score, is because it is a filler game. It's not going to be the main event. But I think this is something that a lot of people can get behind and understand and play and be like, wow, this is a really cool idea and concept. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I felt like it exceeded my expectations, because I really didn't have any. Like, I was kind of like, oh, what is this? Like, this is weird. And so, yeah, it grew on me. Yeah. So I think it's fun.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for Challengers Beach Cup.
Yeah.
Please let us know what you think down in the comments. And please like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.
Bye.